Good morning.
Good morning. I just want to say a quick introduction. I think we've been going actually for a few minutes. I've seen quite a number of you have already joined. Welcome to SportWorks Talks. This morning we're talking with Gautier Vasseur from Pedersen Partners. Morning, Gautier. And we're going to be talking about protecting the values of sport. You're really going to enjoy this presentation from Gautier. I'm going to hand over to him now and let him give his presentation. We're going to hold our questions to the end. Makes it easier in the webinar context. So if you do have questions, please jot them down in the chat, and then we'll come to them at the end and do some quick Q&A. So, Gautier, good morning and welcome, and over to you.
Cool. Thank you very much, Christian, and thanks as well for your team for organizing this webinar and giving me a chance to talk. When we were discussing that with you and Tatiana, I was thinking what kind of topics can have an impact and what do I want to talk about with sport workers. And then, with the current context and while half of the world is experiencing a lockdown, I thought it's important to talk about the values of sports. I believe that we are all realizing now that thanks to the sports, we can enhance social interaction that we are all missing so much. The sports as well give the people an opportunity to improve their health and their immune system. And I find as well sports is very powerful in developing the collective intelligence and giving a moral education. So there is a crisis. After this coronavirus extra, I guess, we'll have to change things and the world will change for the better. And I think that these sporting values are essential in tomorrow's world and they must be properly accounted for. And I believe sports workers, we all have a role in doing that and in standing for those values. So I decided to discuss about that and try to find analogies with other sectors that have experienced this similar crisis and see how they have managed to handle their reputation. By the way, my name is Gautier Vasseur. I'm one of the partner and founding partners of Pedersen Partners. We are a leadership advisory services firm and now operating in 50 countries extra. What we do is we assist global organizations so they can better engage with all their stakeholders. And our angle is whether leadership, organizational culture, and governance. My background in that is a bit different from most of these management consultant guys, because while all my peers were graduating prestigious MBAs or managing large companies, I was making a sports career. I was a professional sportsman. And I've joined the business a bit later than all my peers. And I have an approach that is slightly different. In addition to that, I've been working essentially in markets that were in transitions. I spent a lot of time in Central and Eastern Europe, and all these new countries joined the European Union, and the entire organization moved from a socialist/communist model into a very competitive model that is European Union and a lot more transparent as well. And I spent a lot of time in Russia, developing all this operation while Russia was becoming, among the G8 and growing very fast. And then I spent a lot of time in China, developing our operation across Asia and experiencing China becoming a major world economic power. And what I've learned doing all of that across the world is that it often takes a major crisis so that people accept to challenge the status quo situation. And to change, we need to find actually what are our core values and core vocations. And I believe that sports is actually a clear advantage against all other industries, is that it has values that are powerful and that are authentic. That is why I decided today to share with you guys what I've learned with other companies in other sectors and what can be applied, in the sports in order to better protect and promote the values. So I'll try to move to the next slides. I took 3 different cases in 3 different sectors that have been highly disrupted and that have faced, major reputational issues. Just let me go down here. Financial sectors, the transportation industry, and the technology. So let's start with the financial services, and the iconic example is Lehman Brothers. I guess you all know this name. Lehman Brothers was actually a company that was extremely well respected, that was recognized to be among the oldest financial services firm, and had a very, very strong reputation with all their stakeholders. We are talking about clients, we are talking about community at large, we are talking about watchdogs, we are talking about regulators, we are talking about governments. It was so strong that actually it was known to be too big to fail. And what Lehman Brothers was telling to their community is that Lehman Brothers is the place where the vision gets built. And eventually in 2008, long story short, we realized that actually Lehman Brothers is not delivering on its promise, and it has put a culture that was focused on short-term profits, like bonuses were majors on short-term performance, extra. And when the world has realized that, in fact, the entire reputation that Lehman Brothers has built over 150 years, completely disappeared, and this company, we let it completely collapsed. Out of the big 5 financial services companies that were experiencing big troubles in this financial crisis, Lehman Brothers is the one that we let go down, basically, because people realized that it was making us a promise, that it was supposed to be a company where vision gets built, they were supposed to be forward-looking, they were supposed to think long-term, and we realized they actually do not. And so they completely lost this engagement, reputation, and boom, disappeared. Another disruptive sector is the transportation industry that is changing a lot. And if you remember back 2015, the leader in this industry, the most emblematic brand was Volkswagen. Volkswagen, their motto was Das Auto. They were very, very strong in producing good quality cars. And in fact, they probably had the best car engineers that were existing on the planet. They were all convinced that they are very, very good at producing cars, and they were actually, and probably their cars were recognized as the most, the best quality for money you could get in this industry, and they were the number 1. Within the organizations, they were all convinced that they are the best car engineers. In fact, they were all car engineers, and they were all passionate, and they were all willing to do what is the very, very best and set up, the standards for the industry. What happened is that they were so much convinced that they were the best that it was very difficult for them to accept, to acknowledge, to recognize that they could screw up, and that their actually engines or their cars could not be the best. And if you look at that time in the board of Volkswagen, you had only car engineers, Germans, very strong. They had absolutely no experts in sustainability, in ecology. And in fact, in the entire organization, they did not have one single person able to tell them, guys, it is technically not possible today to do an engine that is using less than 5 liters for 100 kilometers. These people did not exist. They were not part of this organization. And everybody was so much convinced that they are the best that no one was really ready to challenge that situation. And that created a mechanism of governance, of culture, that basically, at the end, they did cheat. Nobody in the company wanted to cheat the rest of the world. However, the culture was so strong and there were so little balance of power in the decision making that at the end they realized that they had to cheat to prove to the people at Volkswagen that they actually are the best. And the message that went through is that actually this company is lacking transparency, and they lack expertise, and they are not the best. And the reputation of Volkswagen suffered big times. I think it lost something like $30 billion, and they still have to spend a lot of money to rebuild a reputation. And today, very few people will buy a Volkswagen car, and even less will buy a diesel engine from Volkswagen. All through 3 years ago, they were recognized as the very, very best. And the last example, I mean, there are a lot, but I choose only 3. The last example I took was in the technology sector, that has been as well, very disrupted, obviously. And the client that I've chosen was Apple. Apple, if you remember, back in 1997, I believe, was a company that was about to get bankrupted. And I think 2 weeks before they were facing bankruptcy, they called Steve Jobs back. And Steve Jobs, what he has done at that time was to completely reshape the organizational culture of the company. And Steve Jobs, his thing was not to make money. His thing was to challenge the status quo. His thing was to think different. And he has completely rebuilt an organization around that motto, think different. And me, I've been working a lot with them at that time, and I can, all the processes from recruitment, onboarding, all the system, the models were about thinking different. They were recruiting only people that think different. They were putting case in front of people that force them to be to think different. They were bringing a lot of diversity, a lot of people from a lot of different functional backgrounds extract together, confronting ideas, and they managed to build a very strong innovative culture. For many years, they were ranked as the most innovative company, and eventually they transformed Apple from a computer company into a company that is selling, MP3 players, that is selling PDAs, that is selling iPods, smartphones, extra, and people did buy that actually. All through Apple was a computer company, they have been ready to buy phones from them. If Dell would have, launched a smartphone at that time, probably people would not have bought it. And not only they have managed to engage with more people in thinking differently, but on the top of that, they have created a level of loyalty and devotion from their customer base that was unique. In fact, they have made a survey, and clients were saying that actually Apple is not just a company, it's a cause that is changing the world, basically. And that way, they returned to financial sustainability, but they became the most engaging and the most popular brand. So that shows that actually we have 3 examples where we see that the culture of an organization is actually shaping behaviors that have a very strong impact on reputation, either that brings you to the top or you can disappear very, very quickly, whatever is your legacy actually. So moving forward, what can we learn out of that in the sports sector? So first of all, the things is that when you have a strategy, it must be current with your vocation and values. When we start talking with our clients and try to make a diagnosis of their situation, most of them, they can tell us what they do. Actually, all of them can tell us what they do. Most of them, they can tell us how they do it. Their differentiators, their unique selling propositions, they have the best people, they have the best experience, they do the best for their clients, they are engaging the best with their communities. But very, very few people can explain us why they do it. And usually that's where struggles are starting from. If you don't know why you're doing things and that is not coherent with how you do it and what you want to achieve, in fact, it's very, very difficult to get commitment and engagement and trust from all your stakeholders. In sports, that will obviously be the fans, the sponsors, the public fundings, etc. If you want to get commitment, to create trust, you need to be authentic. Your strategy must reflect what is your vocation and what are your values. To come back to a previous example, Lehman Brothers were telling we built the vision, and they were delivering on very short-term results that did not work. Apple said, we want to challenge the status quo, and they create a completely different and innovative company, and that really engaged. The second thing that we can apply in sport is actually diversity. We realize, and Volkswagen shows us, that diversity creates a mechanism that allows us to balance powers, to confront opinions, and to improve the capacity for innovation, for creativity, and for strategic thinking that prevents you to make wrong decisions. If Volkswagen had people in their board that were not car engineers, that were experts in sustainability, and that were credible to tell the rest of the board that no, what they want to do with diesels is just not possible, they would have probably avoided this scandal, and they would have probably been today still the #1 automotive companies, and they would have not lost $30 billion just because they did not really enlarge and they did not really open themselves to people that were not the best car engineers. So diversity, whatever it is gender, whatever it is cultural background, whatever it is functional background, it is very important that you can confront opinions and that you create a forum for discussion at all levels of your organization. That does not need to happen just in the board, but in every department, every team must encourage diversity and must encourage people to confront their ideas and to bring their own views. So creating more diversity, having a strategy that is coherent with your purpose and with your values. And you will see that if you do that, in fact, it's the purpose that is influencing behaviors, vigilance, and actions. People don't care about what you know until they know about what you care. What is the most important for the people is why you do something. And what you do is just a proof of what you believe. And if you want to engage with people, you need to have a purpose that is inspiring, that is meaningful, that is engaging, and then demonstrate that with your actions. And not the way around. And a lot of time we tell people what we do, but that just doesn't, create behaviors, that does not stimulate loyalty. However, the cause why you're doing that is very, very powerful. And here again, we could explain that, but that's a bit long, but typically you need to engage with people at an emotional level, and the emotional level is our limbic brain. It's not our cortex. The limbic brain does not analyze the rationals. It's the cortex who does that. And the limbic brain is the center of all our emotions and all our attitude, and that's where we need to communicate. And if we want to communicate with the limbic brain, we need to communicate on emotions, not on what we do. The cortex will analyze what we do and will confirm basically to our limbic brain that what you are doing is coherent with why you're doing that. What is tricky is that the limbic brain has no capacity for language, but the cortex has. So that's why we tend to approach the cortex more than the limbic brain. Long story short, what we see is that values are enhanced by effective governance. When you're not effective in your governance, you're not really credible in front of your audience, and it's more difficult to engage with your stakeholders, basically. And governance, I'm again not talking just about what is happening in the boards, but at every level, you need to have a structure where purpose is driving actually behaviors and your actions. Moving to the next slide, the best practices. So what we have learned over 20 years now of working with these companies that were facing crises or reputational issues and that needed to rebuild their culture, they must start from why they are doing things, and they must start from formulating a purpose. And a purpose usually answers the question, why do I do that? Why do I exist? And the answers must start by I believe. That's something I really recommend you to do. we all know, what are our purpose. We all have this sense, but that's something, again, in our limbic brains. It's very difficult for us to verbalize it, to formulate it so that it can be comprehensive for others. And it's an interesting exercise, actually, to try to verbalize and make this statement. Why am I waking up every morning to go to work? Because I believe that. And of course, in sports, that's something that must be linked with the sporting values and the sporting purpose that you want to stand for. And once you have been able to write this purpose, by the way, if you have big teams, I really recommend you to use an external facilitator to do that. And once it's clearly formulated, once it's inspiring you, and once it's easy for others to understand, you need to engage with those who believe in what you believe. Not people who are interested in what you do, but that's not very strong. Engage with people who share the same belief, and you will see that you will get a lot more engagement, you will get a lot more loyalty and a lot more trust. And these people who believe in what you believe, you need to realize that they are not necessarily in your own networks, that you can seek for diversity with people that are doing things completely different from what you do. If you're only male with women, they can share the same belief as you. People in India, in China, in United States, from all these different cultural backgrounds, they can share the same belief. Also, they are not doing or they are not operating the way you do. And that is these people that will help you to be more creative, to be more innovative. So one of the first questions when we assess the culture of a company is, are you prepared to recruit people that come from a different industry than yours? And when people are answering us, no, they would probably not understand, it's typically a very strong red flag. And eventually, that's something that we see a lot in the sports industry. We tend to believe that if you are not from our world, you will not be able to bring value because you don't understand. And that creates, a lot of uniformity that kills creativity, and that creates a risk that Volkswagen had. They were the best car engineers, but nobody could tell them that it's not possible to do an engine that is less than 5 liters for 100 kilometers. And they have changed that completely now, and you see that they are becoming a lot more sustainable because now they are sustainability experts in their company. So don't work with like-minded people only. It's not sports worker talking to sports workers. It's sports workers willing to bring value to the civil society. So we need people from the civil society to reflect their to understand their needs, to reflect their purpose, and to be able to engage and to get loyalty from them. The other thing is to build up value-based model and not processes. When we were talking with big federations about corporate governance, etc., they showed me like very complex books and manuals with lots of rules, etc. It's very, very difficult to engage on that. If you take the example of Apple, it was all about, again, thinking differently. And all what you had to do was actually they were setting up behaviors and expectations of behaviors, and that's how they were measuring their people. Do these people comply? Do these people exhibit our values? And do these people believe in challenging status quo, in thinking differently? And that's how they would be rewarded. And then you have less rules, you have less processes, you have more space basically to promote your value and to put your purpose and your values on the front line and show the rest of the world what is the most important for you. And last but not least, once you have built up all of that, design a cultural vigilance strategy. You need to have safeguards. And typically, if you have very large organizations, you would have a supervisory board with independent and non-executive people that will come and basically check if all what you are doing is actually coherent and compliant with your purpose, with your values. If you are a smaller organization, you can just ask people to champion actually your culture and to be those people that are observing what is happening in the company and whether this decision, this attitude, these behaviors are actually coherent and remain really engaging for others. And of course, if they don't, you need to act on it. So I will rephrase, because I think, you know, if you just do these 5 things, we will be able to have a better impact on tomorrow's world, and on promoting and protecting values of sports better. So first of all, we should all know and be able to explain others what do we believe. We should engage with people who believe in what we believe, whatever they are, sport workers or not, wherever they are, males or females, wherever they come from. And then confront opinions, open yourself, listen ideas of others, build up value-based model. People set up behavior expectations for your employees, for your colleagues, for yourself, but as well for your fans. And have a vigilant strategy, create a balance of powers, and have people that are not, you know, involved in the day-to-day operation, but that can take a bit of a step back and say, hey guys, here, what you are doing is actually not really reflecting your values. And this, you cannot compromise on that. Never compromise on serving your cause if you want to create engagement, if you want to create loyalty, and if you want to be inspiring for your community, and if you want your values and the sporting values to have a real impact on tomorrow's world. I guess, you know, it's already like 25 minutes I'm talking, so I would leave it not to Q&A questions. I'm not checked if, oh yeah, there have been quite a few questions. So let me read Michelle. The organization that use sustainability as a strategy to position themselves positively, but shouldn't sustainability be a value and never quality of the organization than just a marketing strategy? I mean, if that's a marketing strategy, it's just fake. And Volkswagen is a good example. Volkswagen say, you know, like, our cars are the cleanest. However, they did not have this culture. They were car engineers. They were not sustainability experts, and that all failed. So if you claim a value, you know, as part of your DNA, but actually it's not, you lose $30 billion and you can disappear very fast. How do you change the old mind structures to be open to change? Okay. I think everybody is okay with changes. I mean, you know, I've been living in a lot of places where happened major things where it was a before and an after. As a teenager, I was in Berlin when the wall fell down, and then, you know, like all of what I experienced across the world. People are actually welcoming change. That is not true that people are reluctant to change. They are reluctant if that does not bring them anything. If tomorrow I come to you and I say, hey, you know, like, I will give you a great house on the bank of, you know, the Lemon Lake, and then you will have, you know, great swimming pool and a superb fitness room, and, you know, like 300 square meters extra, but you need to move. People won't say, no, it's okay, I don't want to change, I will stay in my small apartment. People want to change when they see that it's for the better. So again, if you want to engage people on change, it is not telling them what we're going to do. We're going to change that future. We need to engage those people on why we want to do it. We believe that the sports can have a very good impact, positive impact on the civil society. We need to claim and to stand for our values stronger and more effectively. It will be easier for you to engage even like all-minded people. If people don't want to change, maybe they have a power that they enjoy, and then the only way is to put safeguards and balance those powers. If you leave all powers to one person, he will probably not want to delegate them. Yeah, the marketing trends to sustainable development goals. I completely agree. I mean, we've seen that a lot. Before that was about diversity extra. But again, if you're not authentic in what you're doing, if it's just a marketing tool, that doesn't work. There are very, very few examples that come to my mind where it did work actually. It's not really authentic enough. That might work on one market, you know, but at a global scale, that looks fake, and you will face a reputational crisis one day or another, and it will be a bad one, and the risk is very big. How this all will calculate the end and will protect the values of sports. Yeah, okay, good question. In fact, if you want to inspire, it starts with your own behavior. It starts with your own leadership style. It starts with your own, with a culture of a governance of an organization that you put in. It's not just like throwing out a message and telling, no, we're great and our values will be strong. You need to live them if you want to inspire others. So I believe, Akash, that if you take the lessons that we've learned from these three examples and that you work on these best practices that I've shared, progressively you will see that you are a lot more engaging and that you will have an audience that actually believe like you that social interaction is important and can be promoted through sports. But people need to have a stronger immune system, and that can be defended by sports. That we need to have a collective intelligence. We need to follow rules. We need to respect each other. And if in the day-to-day you show these behaviors, then you will see it will cascade down. It will have an impact, and that is how you can sustain and your values. That you can protect the values, and that you can have an impact actually. It will take long, but there are a lot of examples in sports where people that were in the governing bodies of the sports did not live these values, and then nobody really believed that these sports can reflect those values anymore. In regard to diversity, there are two levels here. One is actually having more diverse work, and also making sure the leadership is diverse, especially difficult and slow change in the sporting world. Yeah, I agree. I think for some reason I don't really understand the sports industry, like really think that it's better that sports workers talk to sports workers, and they have a lot of difficulties to open themselves to other expertise. And in regard to diversity, there is something else that I've seen. It does not just go too much male and not enough female. Usually what I found is when, and across all sectors, not just in sports, when you have an organization that is led by women, this person surrounds herself by female. If you have an organization that is led by a man, this guy surrounds himself by men because they trust, because they know each other extra. And then you have a lack of diversity. So I think it must be in the rules and your moral principle that you don't need to work with people you know. You need to work with people who believe in what you believe, whatever is their gender or cultural background. And then you will see that diversity comes very fast, and then you will see that creativity is improving as well very fast. In organizations, there are many people interested in engage in proposing changes, such as implementing plans for sustainability extra, but many of these people do not find the support to move forward with these plans. Yeah. Do you think leaders need to buy the idea for it to be effectively implemented? And this is not the case, how can a manager move toward these goals? Here again, if you present that and say this is what we're going to do for changing, it will be very difficult to engage people. If you explain why you want to do this changing, because you think that your values must be properly accounted for and can have an impact on a better world tomorrow, it will be a lot easier to engage. So again, that is not a management tool. That comes above that. It's a purpose, and people will engage with you on a purpose. If you present that as a new management change, that will definitely not work. This is not the case how a manager can move toward these goals. I mean, at every level, we can set up certain principles of operating, and never compromise on serving your cause, and that will cascade down. That will cascade to your team. That will talk with other teams, that will talk with people outside, and that creates that mechanisms that are promoting actually your value in your community. So it is a lot stronger when it comes from the top, but it does not have to come from the top. I mean, the culture of an organization, it's not just like the 10 guys in the supervisory board. It's all the people from the community that are sharing values. And if people like that, like serve the same cause, share the same belief, then that creates a dynamics that gives a very, very strong and authentic image, reputations with very, very strong values on which nobody will never compromise. Céline, in your article about free resolution, you write that sports organizations should reorganize their boards. If I understand you well, they still prefer to hire people coming from sport. So what are you doing to help them open their mind, and how do you source these profiles? It's as well a long. There is not one answer for this question. Again, it's coming back on why we exist and what type of skills do we need to better, protect our reputation. Once we have defined that, it's actually quite easy to go on the market and try to find people that have a relevant expertise that will want to put this expertise to serve the sporting cause. And actually, it's very easy. I was very surprised to see, when you spend your life in selling Coca-Cola cans, and that you join an organization that will promote, social interaction, healthy benefits, and collective intelligence of sports, they will actually come. It's relatively easy to move someone from a traditional industry into the sports industry. They are interested. What they face is that it's very difficult for them to integrate, actually. But making the diagnostics of what kind of diversity and what kind of skills we need in the board to make the new strategy is often difficult, because people have difficulties to tell us, why their organization exists. But once we know that, it's actually very easy to recruit people from other sectors. Once again, these values of sports, they are so much authentic and powerful that they can be very attractive for a lot of experts in a lot of different industries. And thank you very much. Okay, so thank you as well. I see the time is running, so I don't know, Christian, if you want me to stop or if we keep going on.
No, I think we've just about hit time. I think you've answered some great questions, and I love this topic. I think the whole concept of culture, your whole point about the why is so important. And I think we have a unique position in the sport industry in that, fundamentally, and I always draw on this, why do I do what I do? It wants to make the world better through sport. And with that, I think we can take that into many levels. I liked your point about the sustainability, about the marketing concept, to Michelle's point. It's about getting behind the why. And I think that can really help the whole process of change and evolution.
Yeah, and making sure it sustains. And actually, a reason why, I stopped to do all of that and came back here to Geneva and came to you guys to approach the sport work communities is because in the traditional business, this why is so hard. I mean, it often comes down to making profit. And in sports, it's just so much more powerful. These values, I mean, there are people that are volunteering to spend time away from their family and home just to help the sporting activities. You will never do that. Even Apple, nobody works for free at Apple. You do that in sports. It's just amazing. And I believe that maybe we're a bit spoiled with that, and we tend to feel that these values, they exist, they don't need to be protected. It's wrong. And I think that what we can learn from traditional sectors that struggle so much with our values is actually very relevant, and we can apply it in the sport industry to protect and promote better these sporting values. And again, I think that they are so essential for us. And now this crisis shows us that we really cannot compromise on these sporting values, and every sports worker must be an example and live these values, because that's for our children, basically.
Absolutely. So on that note, I want to say thank you very much for a great presentation. It was very well received. Great questions too from the guests listening in. On the theme of what we're doing with more webinars coming up, to follow on, I guess, from what Gautier shared today, we actually got one later in the week, next week, talking about the importance of the projects to do with development of sport. And we've also got another one coming up about athletes. So overall, I think, thank you. It's been great to have you here this morning. The questions, if you've got further questions afterwards, please don't hesitate to drop us an email or drop us a note. And we can follow up. And of course, feedback to Gautier.
Yeah, sure. I mean, like, there are a lot of questions. It was a bit frustrating because I had to answer them fast. If you want to connect with me on LinkedIn Extra, and I can like share more, knowledge, insights on how we are doing with other companies and what works basically.
Great. Okay, so with that, I wish you all a safe day. Like all of us, stay inside and have a great day wherever you are. Thanks very much, Gautier.
And wash your hands.
And yes, wash your hands. Cheers.
Bye-bye, everyone.
Thank you. Bye-bye.